Hey, hey, if we can. Mm-mm. Best one. Hey, everyone. Just doing one little thing. Okay, welcome, everyone. I am Vuyanzi, also known as Coach Vuyanzi Rodman. I help Black women leaders make career transitions with ease. Today is part two in our series, Three Keys to Master Work-Life Harmony. Notice that. Rethinking work-life balance. So last week we kicked it off with the first installment of the three-part series, and also spoiler alert, there will be a bonus fourth part after these 3 weeks. So tonight, we are talking about prioritize your passion, the path to fulfillment. So I hope that you have a notebook with you, but it's called Prioritize Your Passion, the Path to Fulfillment. So first, if you've ever said to yourself, uh, oh man, I don't have enough time to do everything. I don't have enough time to do what it is, what I really desire to do. There's my partner, there's my husband, there's the kids, or there's my job, but my career path, there's my business that I have, there's the business that I desire to start, and you feel like you're being pulled in multiple directions, then this live is for you. Freak time management. This is not what this is about. And it's funny, as a person who actually has done some time management workshops in the past, it's not about just managing your time. Yes, we know time is important, and from a just a literal standpoint, you want to make sure you're just taking care of your time. But what about you, and how does this really play a part in your path to fulfillment? So if any of this fits you, I want you to just to do this with me. Hopefully you're watching me in a place where you can just do this exercise with me. Go ahead and close your eyes. Don't be looking at me because my eyes are going to stay open for a moment. Go ahead and close your eyes. Make sure your feet are planted flat on the ground. And I want you to just take a couple of deep breaths, some inhales and some exhales. And when you exhale, I actually want you to act as if, what is that? Did anyone see that thing flying behind? Your eyes are closed. Keep your eyes closed. It was something that flew behind me. And anyway, keep your eyes closed. Breathe as if you're blowing out candles on a cake. Exactly. And I want you to take a moment to see the picture in your mind of what the burden of balance has felt like in your life. I want you to see it as a picture in front of you. In fact, picture it as if it's on your computer screen, your laptop screen, and just get a picture of what that feels like, the burden of trying to keep that work-life balance. And then, you do you have that picture? Okay. And then what I want you to do is find that delete button on your imaginary computer. And I want you to click delete in your imagination. Go ahead and do away with that picture. Now it's just a blank screen. And now I want you to now replace that with what work-life harmony would look like. Build that picture right there on your screen. And then I want you to feel it in your body. How would that feel for there to be work-life harmony in your life? What would it feel like? What would it look like? What would it be like? And I want you to like turn up those colors. And if there's any sounds that go along with that music, I don't know, birds chirping, turn up the volume, turn up the picture. If there's any special effects, put them in there. If there are any supporting characters, then put them in there. And I just want you to breathe into that picture. And take a screenshot of it. And now open up your eyes and slowly come out. So welcome, 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 welcome everyone. Come on in. And if you're watching it on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay and write down who you are, where are you calling in from, where are you clicking in from, really. And let's go through this, and we're going to go through it quickly. And I'm saying that because there have been some challenges today with the internet. So really, this is about purposeful prioritization. So I want you to write that down, purposeful prioritization. And I want to just give you just three quick stories. So the first one is when I decided in 2018, when I decided to leave my full-time job that I was working at and making a relatively good salary plus bonuses, plus a company car. And I knew in terms of purpose in my heart that I couldn't do whatever my purpose was in this way. I was traveling 80% of the time. And in case anyone's ever had a job like that, where they're traveling 80% of the time, the 20% that you're not traveling, you're just happy that you're not on the plane. That's it. Like you're not even thinking about anything else besides that, and maybe running some errands that you couldn't do the other part of the time. So this is about purposeful prioritization. So it is January, was it January or February in 2018, and I make a decision. I'm going to leave the job, and I had some things lined up and the other things that were lined up were going to give me an opportunity to pursue whatever it was I was supposed to be pursuing in my life. And what did I do in my purposeful prioritization? I wrote a letter of resignation and I left. Second example, let's go back even farther. That was 2006, my first career as a teacher. And there came a point where, as much as I loved teaching, I knew that my purpose wasn't to stay in the classroom. It had to be something outside of the classroom. But this is what I knew. I knew that if I didn't go that year, I would just wind up staying there till retirement. And I knew I would be miserable if I did that, because the money starts getting, pretty good. And then the more degrees you get more money. New Jersey is one of the highest paying states for teachers in the United States. And well, it used to be like in the top 3 or top 5, something like that. So I made a decision, purposeful prioritization, and I prioritized my purpose, whatever that may have meant, but I knew it meant to get out of the classroom. So before the end of my 7th year of teaching, I left. And then finally, and let me just explain that one too, right? So I told you in 2018 when I left, it probably looked like it didn't make sense because of all that I had going for me. And in 2006, it didn't look like it made sense because I was a tenured teacher. The only way I could get fired is if I did something illegal that wasn't happening, and or if there was that much of a drop in the population, and that population pretty much stayed steady. So it didn't make sense, right? To the other world, to those outside of my mind. However, we're talking about purposeful prioritization, and really that being the path to fulfillment. Lastly, I want to say this, back even further than that, when I was still in college, I made a decision for one semester. Now, granted, I just so that to give you an understanding and some context, when I was in college, I did have 3 children, and I made a decision in one for one semester. I was going to leave and go on an internship. That would have meant not bringing my 5-year-old and my 2 nearly 3-year-old twins with me. That means they would stay where they were, and I would leave for a full semester to do an internship. I did. And many people said to me, how I could never leave my kids. How could you do that? I could never leave my kids. So this is what I'm talking about when I talk about work-life harmony. For me, I was in complete harmony with, as far as my purposeful prioritization. Did I put my work or my schooling ahead of my kids? To this day, I'm going to tell you that I didn't. To this day, I can tell you that going away for that semester was for my kids, even though it may have been taking me away physically from my kids. Let's talk about you. I really want to focus on, of course, tonight is called Prioritize Your Passion, the path to fulfillment, but I really want to focus on purposeful prioritization and what that means. Number one, how do you do that in your life? And then we'll talk about how it helps or how it works towards your fulfillment. Number one is that really it's purposeful prioritization. And how do you first get your priorities straight? I know they're in here, but I challenge you tonight to make a list of your values. What is important to you? What do you prioritize in your life? So write down the word or type in the word values. What do you value in your life? Values. So now when you look at your values, right, and don't keep making the list exhaustive, at least just do your top 5 or your top 10, but take a look at that. And think about right now, when you think about work-life harmony, remember we crossed out that word balance, and you look at your values, how is it lining up? How is it when you're looking at what you're doing right now in your life, work-life harmony, and many of you are here because you're not harmonizing in your life, but what does that look like? Everyone's texting me, oh my gosh. What does that look like in your life? If you're looking at your values that you wrote out, and then you're looking at, well, this is what I do every day, and this is how my life looks, and it's going like that, well, then they're not in harmony. And that's the first thing you need to do. Write out what you value. Number 2, remember tonight we're talking about prioritize your passion, the path to fulfillment. Number 2 is write this down, intentional itinerary. An intentional itinerary. Write that down, intentional itinerary. What do we mean? We let life drag us around many times. We let our scheduling, our, things that we have to do, we allow that to drag us around. And we're not necessarily, we feel, listen, if you really think about it, right? How many of you feel like you are slaves to your schedule or slaves to a calendar? Ping, ping, you're getting all these notifications, and that you're just a slave to it, kind of going and doing in your mind what you have to do, but you're not really being intentional. What do you think when you think about an itinerary, right? It's a list of things, or a list of things, right? The tasks, the things that you really have to do. Now, listen, you're connecting this to the first thing you did as far as the values are concerned. Values, right? The purposeful prioritization, what you value. And now you're thinking about an intentional itinerary. When you look at what you do every day, does it really look intentional? So some of you may be saying, well, I gotta work, I have my business. That's intentional, isn't it? It's a part of it. But if you're looking at your values and what you're doing every day, what you're doing in your everyday itinerary is not matching up, you need to become intentional. So take a moment, and this isn't for you to do now because it'll take too long, but take a moment to really write out, ideally, what would be your intentional itinerary? What would that look like? We're coming on to number 3. And then just as a quick reminder, this is part 2 in our series, 3 Keys to Master Work-Life Harmony, Rethinking Work-Life Balance. Tonight, our focus is on prioritization. You prioritize your passion, the path to fulfillment. And now we're looking at how do we do that? Number 1, what did we say? Purposeful prioritization, like that values exercise I just told you to do. Number 2 is an exercise that I'm going to ask you to do after this live, but the intentional itinerary. If your itinerary is not matching with your values, then it's time to rethink it and redo it. So now, even as you begin to think about this, even now, as you begin to think about this, you may be saying, okay, Leondi, this is cute. You're cute. I know, thank you. But this isn't realistic. Kind of nod your head if you're thinking that. This isn't my intentional itinerary. What I'd really like to do based upon my values isn't realistic. And if you are one of those, well, we have to look at reality people, or if you're one of those, this isn't realistic people. If you're one of those, I just can't do it right now because the XYZ is just impossible. Well, then that will be the case. You won't do it. You can't do it. It is impossible. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's a declarative statement. That means it's true. Now, If you're willing to step out of that, you're willing to stay for number three. Number three is audacious exploration. Go ahead and write that down or type it out. Number three is audacious exploration. That's simply one thing. Instead of saying, oh, I can't do this. This is impossible right now with everything going on in my life. Ask yourself the question in an audacious way, how can I make this happen? This meaning when you look at one and look at two. Number three is audacious exploration. Instead of making those negative, looking at reality, declarative statements, I want you to start audaciously exploring the question, how could I make this happen? And this isn't a one and done. This is what you ask yourself every day and be willing to think and be willing to receive answers, even from intuition, God. Think about how could I make this happen in my life? How does this work towards fulfillment? It should be self-explanatory, but just in case, when we think about fulfillment, this is about paying attention to your body and what feels aligned and what feels good to your body. When you think about what you've been trying to do, masked as some BS work-life balance, how many of you almost feel like a ball inside your chest, inside your stomach? You get a headache. You just, that doesn't feel good. That has been your body telling you something. When you think of the words work-life harmony, how does that feel? So how do we use this as a path to fulfillment? Well, purposeful prioritization, Queen, when you put you and your values, right, that we did in the first one, into the equation or back into the equation, you should start to slowly see this thing beginning to align because you're putting you into this. You're feeling fulfilled. When you think about intention, an intentional itinerary means you build your itinerary, your daily itinerary, based upon those values. That's based upon what's important to you. Queen, how does that feel? Good. If it feels good, just thinking about it, type the word good. And then finally, that audacious exploration of asking yourself, how can I make this happen? Listen, you already then begin to pave that path to your fulfillment. When you say it can't happen or let's face reality, for many of you, you feel that knot rise up, right back up, because it means it's not going to get done. It can't get done. It's impossible to get done. But when you ask yourself the question, how can I make this happen? Ooh, you start to open up the doors of opportunity. And in fact, you start to, the environment begins to change around you. You start to see and hear things differently because now you've told the command center, your mind, I want you to look for ways to make this thing happen. The path to fulfillment. I hope you've taken notes. I hope you're thinking about this. If you have a question about this, feel free to DM me. If you want support with this, if you're tired of trying to manage this work-life harmony on your own as you're transitioning in your career to your next chapter, as you're transitioning in your career to your business, as you're in your business and you're looking to 10x or expand your business, if you're tired of doing this alone, and you know it's going to take more than a course of how to do this, but it's going to take a changing and a renewing of your mind to get to the transformation you want, then by all means, DM me. We have been talking about prioritize your passion, the path to fulfillment. This has been the second in the 3-part series. Spoiler alert, The bonus series is going to be after the third one. If you know anyone who should be in this group and hearing this content, we do this one time a week. This is a minimalist group. We do this one time a week on Thursdays, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. East African time. Anyone who should be here, make sure you invite them to come. I hope you've gotten something out of this. What would you say has been your biggest takeaway? What would you say has been your biggest takeaway? Queen, until the next time, mwah. I'll see you next week.